Okay, awesome. We can
All right.
start.
Ashley, dig in.
Okay, so before founding Growth Mode Technologies, what does your career path look like?
Um, I've been in IT since probably before it was called IT. I started when I was 14 at a local computer store and just kind of was in that field ever since. And leading up to this, the majority of my experience was either a freelancer. I was kind of a one-man show doing a lot of things.
Mhm.
Or at different points in my career, I worked in IT leadership in different places, in schools and in government in a few different places. Um, but basically during the pandemic, I decided it was time to try to do something that was bigger than I could do as a one-person operation, try to build something with a team and really try to create some good jobs and do some good stuff. And that's where Growth Mode Tech came from and how we got here.
Okay, awesome. Was entrepreneurship always a part of your plan, or did it happen kind of unexpectedly?
I don't know that I ever really thought about it that way, but yeah, I would say, I mean, I started my first company when I was 18. So I think it's fair to say that,
Yeah.
that was sort of part of my plan. Like I said, I don't know that I ever called it that,
Mhm.
maybe until recently, but, um, yeah, I started my first job at a local computer store. Um, Started with a guy who built that business, and that really inspired me and taught me so many things that I still stick to today. And that's probably, like I said, the inspiration for that and just the way I saw the only way to do it.
Okay. And growing up, whether you just kind of mentioned that, but growing up, were there people like family members, mentors, business figures who shaped your mindset or approach to work?
Yeah, absolutely. So like I said, my first boss, his name's Joe, probably taught me more about the professional world than anything else. But even before that, when I was a little kid, my parents bought a home computer when I was 5 years old, which at the time in 1985 was not super common yet. I'm like those old people. We were the first to have a color TV.
Hmm.
We were the first to have a home computer on the block. Um, and that sort of definitely helped set my nerdy path from
Yeah,
that stage forward.
understandable. Was there a moment or experience in your life that made you realize you wanted to build something of your own?
Um, yeah, I mean, lots, right? First and foremost, I'm probably not a great employee. I don't
Mhm.
necessarily work well for other people, depending on the people, but in general. And I think that's one of the biggest things that um, is the inspiration, but also you look around and you see that the only way to really achieve the things that you want is to do it yourself. And that's how I've come to be here out of pure necessity.
Yeah. Okay. What inspired the launch of Growth Folk Technologies, and how did the idea first take shape?
Yeah. So, like I said, I had been a IT freelancer for the majority of my career. But the problem is that's sort of, you are your own business and your own boss in that situation. But it's really just a matter of creating a job for yourself, where I wanted to build a company and I wanted to be able to, kind of live my values, which is to help people and build jobs and things like that. And I thought rather than screaming on the internet, "Hey, you should pay people and treat them well," so let's prove it, right? And start an organization that is designed to create good paying jobs and demonstrate that if you treat people well, you can be successful. And knock on wood, that's exactly what's happened.
Okay. Is there like a certain experience that made you like start thinking that way?
Uh, Not really. I think just overall life, kind of seeing what's happening in society and things that I'd like to change or have a different way. And like I said, at some point you sort of realize that um, nothing will happen unless you make it happen. So
Mhm.
that's what I've at least attempted.
I think you're doing a good job. How did you identify the opportunity or market gap that Growth Folk Technologies now serves?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So, like I said, Growth Mode Technology primarily is an IT company. And I've worked over the years in sort of multiple capacities, right? So what we do primarily is provide IT services to businesses. We are their IT company, or their IT department rather, instead of typically having internal employees. And I've worked with companies. I've brought in folks like me, and I've worked with other organizations like me to provide these services. So I've got a really good idea of the need, and also what everybody else in town is providing. And there is a massive gap, and it's kind of a mismatch. And that's kind of been the area that I've tried to fill, is to do things a little differently than everybody else in town, with a strong focus on getting people what they need more than anything else.
Awesome. For someone who has never heard of the company, how would you describe what Growth Mode Technologies does in simple terms?
Yeah. Technology services for business is the shortest description.
Okay.
And probably the most accurate, honestly.
Okay.
You know, we used to say we're the computer guy. Nobody really uses those terms anymore, but
Yeah.
yeah.
When did you officially start the business, and what did the earliest version of it look like?
I started it, let's see, it's going to be 4.5 years ago now, Growth Mode Tech. The earliest version, first few months, started out with me just working out of my house by myself. And then after landing some business, we rented a small office in downtown Syracuse where you could literally buy the room. And that was kind of our first real business location, and in the spot where I brought on the first, I think 2 or 3 employees. And then we moved to this location.
Okay. What is unique about Growth Mode Technologies compared to competitors in the IT and podcast and media space?
Yeah, so a couple things. In the IT space, one of the things that really stands out with us is we do everything as a sort of all-you-can-eat service. So what that means is our clients pay us a flat monthly fee, and for that, they get everything they need: unlimited tech support, remote and in-person, cybersecurity protection, their Microsoft licenses, their phone service, laundry list of things, for a very, very affordable price, but one that doesn't nickel and dime. And that's one of the places that I think really stands out. There are still a number of organizations in town that do things hourly. So they bill you by the hour like your lawyer. And it's a horrible situation for both parties. It can be expensive. It can get, companies can suddenly get a bill one month for 5 times the amount that they had been paying just because something occurred. And for the IT provider, if they're good at something, they get penalized when you charge by the hour, right? If I can solve a problem in 15 minutes that most people takes them 3 hours, I'm going to get paid less than all those people.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense. And what happens is it drives organizations who have good people to then, I don't want to say overbill, but purposely spend more time than they might need to on things. And at the same time, when you're billing by the hour, you get to pick and choose. So a lot of times companies will go, well, I don't know if I want to spend 5 hours on you addressing this problem. I don't know if that's a super urgent problem. When in reality, that's that kind of like basic maintenance that can save you massive amounts in the future. So it's a big deal to be able to offer people, just like I said, everything they need for a flat price that works out to be less than they pay from other people.
Yeah. Do you have like that same mindset when it comes to Growth Mode content, like the podcast?
Absolutely. Yeah. So Growth Mode content, just to give you a little background on that started at the beginning of this year, here just in the beginning of 2025. And the idea there was, first and foremost, I grew Growth Mode Tech. I grew my IT business by making podcasts and content about the business. Well, what would happen is I would make content, and then I would get some business and be too busy to make more content, right? So I needed some help. And at the same time, I had a couple friends in business who saw what I was doing with that, wanted to do the same thing for their business. And the idea was, I'll start a co-op, so to speak. Basically, 2 or 3 of us business owners will split the cost of one person who can do this editing and the basic stuff so we can crank out content. I started talking to more and more people, and I finally put it out there, and people came out of the woodwork. And suddenly we had more than a co-op. We had a full-on business, and enough clients to support a full team now. So that kind of popped off immediately. But to your original question, yes, I do kind of take that same mindset to that, where we try to provide more value than anybody else possibly would for the price you pay. So, for example, most of our clients are on a package where we shoot a podcast for them, take that and create 30, 60, 90 pieces of content that we distribute for them on their social media and manage all those different things. And it's really probably a suite of services that in many cases people pay 3 different parties for, and end up spending 3 times the amount of money. And that's, it's that type of thing that, like I said, I guess is always my philosophy is, yes, I can provide a high quality service, but nobody knows that until you can work with them. And the best way to work with them is offer them as much value as possible. So it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, very true. Who did you talk to, research, or learn from when evaluating the idea early on?
That's a great question. Really just other people doing it first and foremost, which there aren't many. And that's one of the things that sort of led me to this. I saw great demand, but not necessarily a huge supply, which to me as the entrepreneur is immediately, ringing bells. Hey, this is a great place to be. And that's really kind of where I did it. I had a background in the content business for quite a while, actually. I opened the first content studio in Syracuse over a decade ago, as part of another venture that I was in. At the time, nobody knew anything about a podcast. And the social media stuff that we do now with the clips and the reels and the shorts, that didn't exist at that time. So it was a different world, and it was not a successful business at that time. But I had been in it since then, and worked with a lot of people and done a lot of things in that. And that gave me a really strong background in these things. That's what helped me leverage that initially to grow the IT business with content. And we've just sort of taken it from there,
Yeah.
I don't know if that answers your question, but
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, it does. What are some of the first, you kind of like touched base on this, but what were some of the first concrete steps you took when launching the business?
I think just the basics, right? So setting up the website, setting up the right resources so that when we announced, we had things there. The thing I didn't want to do, and the thing I've seen others, the mistake they make is put too much out before it's ready. And you go, hey, I got this great new thing. And people go, oh, cool, I want to check it out. I'm like, oh, well, the website's not ready yet.
Yeah.
That's not cool. So, it was those basics, some business cards. I'm a big fan of swag of all sorts. So I likely ordered some of the company shirts and hats and mugs pretty early, if I remember correctly. But it's, it's those basics really to get things going. And then it's a matter of finding clients.
Yeah, makes sense. And on the basis of ordering stuff, did you require funding in the beginning? If yes, how did you secure resources? If not, how did you sustain the early stage?
So I luckily did not. Because I had, enough of my own revenue from everything else that I could sort of float that to some degree. Also, we really came out of the gate with a full suite of clients. And that's, one of the things that I was able to do is sort of pre-sell. So I think we had over a dozen on the day that our team started.
Wow.
So and I've always tried as much as I can. I've never actually had investors or loans or anything in any business I've done. It's always been bootstrapped. And it's a matter of finding enough business to pay for the resources. And when you find more business, you can get more resources.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily saying that's the best way to go about things, but that's what I had available, and that's how I've done it.
Awesome. Okay. I kind of talked about this a little bit with Amanda, but Did you build a team right away or gradually? And how did you decide who to bring in and when?
Yeah. So gradually, really, again, like I said, because we've been completely bootstrapped, it's a matter of as soon as we can afford it, right? We didn't necessarily start with a bunch of capital where we could grab folks before there was business to support them. So it was just, kind of naturally that way. In the IT business, the first position that we needed to fill was a tech, another person to go do the work, right? And I got incredibly lucky that I found our guy Anthony, who's running around here somewhere. Um, and like I said, it was incredible luck because he's been an incredible, experienced member of the team, and the fact that he was our first hire is one of the reasons we've been so successful. And again, from there, it's just kind of continue as we have the need and the funds to add folks. I believe in, paying and treating people really well. So that also factors into it. It's not a matter of, do we squeak every penny to get one more person? It's first and foremost, is everybody else who's here taken care of? Should we give them more before we do something like that? That's always a consideration. But other than that, in the IT world, what's unique about us as well is, I hire folks for their personality as much as their technical skills, because what we do, as much as we kind of play the role as the IT department, we're not their IT department. We're not employees, and we are a contractor. And at the end of the day, it's our job to provide customer service.
Yeah.
And so we need technical people who can speak to the computers and the humans, which is a little bit rare. But like I said, I've been lucky enough to find a number of folks who have those skills, and that's really been everything for us.
Yeah, true. What were the biggest real challenges you encountered early on, and how did you overcome them?
I think the biggest challenges are just a matter of having those resources when you need them. So when we get to the point where we need 3 people, do we have the funding for 3 people? You know what I mean? Those sorts of things. And luckily, we were able to grow at a rate to where that wasn't too big of a deal. But I would definitely say those are always the biggest challenges.
Yeah. Have there been any moments where something didn't go as planned that taught you important lessons?
Yeah, nothing goes as planned. I mean, that's the lesson, in all honesty. Nothing goes as planned, and everything takes longer than you would expect it to.
Okay.
And if you just sort of accept those realities, it gets a tad less stressful. It's just nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
You just have to accept that.
Okay, this is also a question I was wondering too. How do you balance your personal life and the demands of entrepreneurship?
That's a great question. Some would say I don't. But the reality is I do. So I constantly am making time for family and for even myself to do nothing whatsoever. People might be surprised to know the amount of TV that I watch. And it's because I'm up all night. But I need to do things like that to disconnect and just take a couple hours to be mindless and play a video game and take the family out of town for the weekend and things like that. And I am likely answering emails and texts as I'm doing all of those things. But at the same time, that's what I signed up for. So this isn't a job. This is everything for me, out of necessity and passion. Right. So, it's not quite the same, when you're an employee, you talk about work-life balances as an owner. Like I said, this is really, unfortunately my whole life, or fortunately maybe, and that's what I've signed up for. So, everything I'm building is for my family, and they get that. My kids are a big part of the business. My adult kids both work in the business. My younger ones are determined to take over one day.
Yeah.
So that's the balance. That's what we do.
Yeah. Amazing. How do you think about innovation and staying ahead in tech plus media?
Yeah, great question. You 100% have to do that in both counts, right? And the crazy part is both move rapidly fast and it's incredibly changing. IT, they used to say, reinvents itself 100% every 6 months.
Hmm.
Um, and that stat was from years ago. It's before the days of AI. So it's more likely doubled. You know what I mean? Um, the way to stay on top of it is to be plugged into the communities, right? So whether you're going to industry conventions, you're part of even online forums and things like that for people in the industries, networking with other folks. I don't really believe much in competition. I think there's more than enough business for everybody in all these fields, and we can only get better when we sort of collaborate and share news and things like that. And that's just kind of what you got to do. You got to just have to try your best to stay on top of these things. And it is a challenge, but it's, it is a big part of the game.
Yeah, that's definitely big. When you look back, what is something you wish you knew at the beginning?
That everything takes longer than I would expect it to, and nothing will go right.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what advice would you give to someone starting their own business today?
That's a wonderful question. It all depends on what they're doing. My biggest advice, and I guess I would just say generically without real context, is to make sure you're not over leveraged. Meaning, I really just personally don't like businesses like restaurants or retail where you have to have a large amount of inventory and equipment and a lot of things just to do business is not my game. And there are folks who love that and they do great in it, but just kind of have a plan is the biggest thing. And that doesn't mean it needs to be an MBA style business plan.
Yeah.
But you need to at least have some semblance. Everybody says chase your passion, and I agree with that. But, just because I'm passionate doesn't mean I'm going to make money, right? You really have to understand how to put those two pieces together. We had yesterday on the show, we had a musician and producer, and that was one of the things I asked him, how do you take the artist and then learn the business piece of it? Because it's a whole other world.
Yeah.
But it's something that you have to figure out how to meld together.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. What do you think separates successful entrepreneurs from those who give up?
They didn't give up. In all honesty, right? So that's perseverance is the biggest thing. And some might even say it's a matter of how much shit can you take, because there will be a lot. And business ownership, entrepreneurship is like it looks like your EKG chart where it goes like this, right? One day you are on the absolute top of the world, and the next day is the worst day of your life. And repeat every other day forever.
Yeah.
That's kind of how it goes. And for a lot of folks, they don't want to deal with that, and it's completely understandable, and they bail.
I know.
The ones that make it are the ones who make it through all the horrible pieces and still want to do it.
Yeah. Okay, and we'll end it off with looking to the future. Where do you see growth of technologies in the next few years, and what excites you the most about that direction?
Yeah. So what really excites me is that both of our businesses, both Growth Mode Technologies and Growth Mode Content, are growing rapidly because we're in high demand spaces. Every company on the planet not only needs IT, but it is now probably one of the most important things. Technology is what drives every business, from the oldest traditional company to, a modern app. So there's no shortage of that. And then, when we come to the content business, social media marketing, content marketing is clearly not going anywhere. And it's something that's booming. And still, there is a small number of agencies like ours that are dedicated to just that. And so I feel like we've got a wide open market in an area that's high demand. And then you mix in all the fact that Central New York in general is on a massive upswing. This area is booming. It's one of the top places in the country that people are moving to. And that's because massive businesses are expanding and opening up. And we talk about Micron, but there's just one of many. So as a company that provides services to other companies, we're in a great town. So.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, awesome. That was all my questions.
Awesome. Thank you.